One thing I think we learned from Richard is to experiment with your settings and find what suits you and how you want to create your image. Is that something you often encourage people to do? You want them to experiment for themselves?
Yeah, Michelle knows me too well. That is very true. You see, everything we talk about comes back to what I mentioned previously. We have on one side a technical settings, and on the other side we have creativity. Now, what we need to do is gel those together, and the way people are wired is either predominantly one way or the other. We all know this. Some of us are tech people, and some of us are just creative, arty-farty people. We need to blend those two together. So if you think as a tech person, you're searching all the time for settings. What are my settings? What my camera? What lens? What f-stop? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. If you're an arty person, you're thinking, oh, how can I see an image? How can I compose? It's a completely different mindset. So a lot of people are simply looking for a set of settings. So what I often do deliberately, you'll see this on some of my videos, I'll shoot a scene with different settings. Now, no, I'm not talking wildly different. Say I might, but this happens a lot with foreground. So I might be light painting a foreground, and oftentimes these will be images where the foreground is a separate image to the sky. I might shoot my foreground at f4, right, for 20 seconds and do some lighting on it or something. Then the next time I might shoot it at f8 and then do some lighting on it. Now, obviously, if I'm shooting at f8 as opposed to f4, there are changes in technique to get the same amount of light gathering. But there are other things that come into the equation. For example, the depth of field is much greater at f8 than it is at f4 or f2.8 or f1.8. And these are the things that we talk about. So landscape photographers, for example, don't have to worry about depth of field very much because they're shooting at f11, f16. Everything's in focus. From a couple of meters in front of the camera to the whole world is in focus. You start stopping down your lens to f1.8, f2, f2.2 and things like that. It's really hard to get things in focus. If I want to shoot something that's close to the camera and feature that, and when you see my images, you'll see I do this a lot. Sometimes you've got to stop down your aperture or refocus or whatever, but stopping down the aperture does that as well because it increases your depth of field. Changing all of these things makes you think, and that's one of the other things that is one of my favourite sayings with nightscape photography, Astro landscape photography. It's a genre of photography that makes you think about what you're doing rather than just follow the same set formula a lot. I don't know if that answers it totally, but that's what I think.
It does. I'd like Sebi to clip that one too. I think that's worth keeping.
Clip it, Seb.
Clip it.
We're doing it. More comments. There's so many.